Good morning, students. In our class, we are on discussion about the analysis of literary discourse. In our previous class, we have discussed, in short, what a discourse is, and then what is a literary discourse, then what steps we should follow, carefully follow, to analyze a literary discourse successfully, and then some as a suggestion some points upon which we should try to analyze the literary discourse. Uh, we have already discussed 2 points. Lexis, that is related to the diction, the words used in the given discourse, and then the grammar, how the grammar is used to suit the domain and tenor of the given discourse. Now our third point. Third point is the discussion of figures of speech. As you all know, what figures of speech are? They are the language ornamentations. They are to use words in a way that gives a special meaning that is different from the literal meaning or the general meaning of the use of that word. Simile, metaphor, personification, you are familiar with these figures of speech. Here, for our this point, we can say that figures of speech are special linguistic effects, linguistic related to language. They are special effects created in the language, which are used in literature for their special communicative powers. Using figures of speech, the expression, the meaning may be made sharper, more pointed, and more memorable. The effect comes out from some irregularity of language. Irregularity of language means that the use of the word is not for the ordinary sense. It gives a special turn, we can say, a special movement, amazing the reader, startling the reader for the purpose. So, it is irregularity of language. It is also called the unusual in language. Figures of speech are also called the unusual. In your another paper, you must have read Vakrokti by Kuntak. Actually, figures of speech are used to words in a vakra way, in a special way that is not straight. Various types of parallelism, repetitive patterns, and words and comparisons are used for such effect. Figures of speech makes the meaning sharper and more pointed. Sometimes they suggest the movement with their sound. We are talking about onomatopoeia, where the pronunciation of the word suggests the movement or the sound. Figures of speech increases the effectiveness of the expression. If figures of speech are used, we will find that the given passage becomes more effective. We will find figures of speech mostly if the given passage is about given passage is in a verse form. If it is a poem, then all these figures of speech will easily be found. Even in a prose text, we should try to find out some type of parallelism, some type of comparison, some type of statement making, and giving of examples, didactic or inductive method. We should consider these points. We will consider these points later. Now we move to our next point. Next point is cohesion and context. After reading the given text, we are to decide for these points. It is also important to understand how the whole discourse is placed within a context, whether it is related, point to point related, connected to paragraphs are connected to one another, the sequence of sentence carry a sequence in meaning. We are to point out, we are to understand these things under this heading. So, how the whole discourse is placed within a context. On the one hand, it includes the way a sentence fits into the context of the discourse, including its relation to preceding and following sentences. Sentences run like a chain. Every sentence gives way to next sentence, and at the same time it clarifies the information given up to now by all the preceding sentences. This is cohesion. Cohesion is how a sentence runs in context with its earlier sentence and gives a connected way to the sentence coming after it. This is cohesion. Under this heading, we note the various connections and cross references. Second point. On the other hand, it can also refer to the way to parts of the discourse and the whole discourse are related to a particular situation beyond the text. If we read the given discourse, the given text, we will get an idea that it is about something. Something is said. Even that thing we may express in our own words. We can summarize that thing, we can analyze that thing, we can even uh, summarize it to the point of a heading. That can only be possible if it is in cohesion and in context. So here in context we deal the particular parts of the discourse in relation to the whole discourse. In other kinds of discourses we fit our language to the situation, but in literature we have to fit the situation in a language. In our real life discourses the situation is there and then we make the expression, but what is special about a literary discourse, that literary discourse is totally imaginative. It is just the imagination of the mind of the writer. So here the situation is in the mind of the writer, and using the words he tries to recreate it in the minds of the readers. So situation is created by the words, though we have the feeling when we run in the flow with the work that situation is creating those meanings, but in fact those sentences, those words, all are used to suit the situation of the text, but in fact the situation is created in our mind with those words and sentences. So here we say that in other kinds of discourse we fit our language to the situation, but in literature we have to fit the situation in language. This is called author-reader situation, which may be formal or informal, and through which the discourse expresses a point of view towards the characters and the events. If the author, this is the touchstone for the success of the writer. If the writer is able to create the same situation, the same reference, the same context in the mind of the reader according to his intention, then he is a successful reader, and that thing can be achieved when there is cohesion and context in the given text. So, in other words, here we are trying to understand the success of giving an effective expression to himself by the author. Another particularity of literary discourse is the creation of characters situation through dialogue, and characters reader situation through monologue or autobiography. Here everything is created. Literature itself is a creative process. The characters are made by the imagination of the writer, and the situation, their thoughts, their ideas, their purpose, or we can say their inner character, that is also created with the help of the language in form of dialogue, or sometimes in form of monologue, or sometimes through their action. For this effect, direct speech and indirect speech may be used. Thus, Under the heading cohesion, we consider connections and cross references between sentences, and under the heading situation or context, we consider features like the character situation, the author reader situation, the presentation of speech, and thought situation. We are to give our comments about these points after judging, analyzing the presence of cohesion and context in the given text.